Welcome back, my friends, to the Predictive Playbook. We're going to talk Major League Baseball playoff action for the contenders. And some of these contenders are playing pretenders, believe it or not. But the Phillies last night pulled out one that, really was amazing. It was extra innings, and if Harper now is not the MVP of the National League, I don't know who else should be. But they got very fortunate to win that game in extra innings, 3-2. They've scored a total of 3 runs now against those hard-throwing Baltimore Orioles relievers the last 2 games. But we're going to get to that game in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about the standings here. Tampa Bay has a 6-game lead over Boston. Boston is a wild card team. If the season ended today, they have a 1.5-game lead over Toronto. The Yankees are half a game behind Toronto, which means they're only 2 behind Boston. They're 8 games behind Tampa Bay in that monster AFC, American League East division.
AFC.
Yeah. Oh, the sports overlap sometimes, you know. Chicago White Sox are already in. Houston, 8-game lead over Oakland. Oakland is probably done. In the National League, it's getting interesting. The Phillies managed to stay within 3 games of Atlanta, and I think if they can pick up another game by Tuesday, when they play that 3-game set at Atlanta, that could get really interesting, especially with the way the pitching might line up for Philly with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola and Ranger Suarez. I mean, I would take those 3 right now against Atlanta and see what would happen. Everybody else is kind of chasing the St. Louis Cardinals right now, which are a wild card team, having won. What is their streak now up to, Chuck?
I think last
9.
night was 9. I think last night was 9. Yeah, and
Yep.
like you said, they're all chasing the Cards because in the NL there's just one spot up for grabs. The Giants and Dodgers have locked that other one up, and not like the AL where you have the 5 teams for 2 spots, which is pretty riveting. We just have the 3 teams for 3 teams for 1 spot.
Yep. And I'll give you a "Did you know" segment here, and maybe we can start doing this regularly when the news is pretty noteworthy. I think this is the Dodgers. If they would win 7 more games, would tie the all-time record for a reigning World Series champion in baseball history. The last time this was done was 1971 by the Orioles. 101 wins, 57 losses. The A's in 1990, the Astros in 2018 came back the following year after winning a World Series and won 103 games. And the 1976 Reds, 102 and 60. Those are the top teams on the list. It looks like the Dodgers are certainly going to challenge that. What's real interesting here is the Orioles in 71 lost the World Series 4-3 to Pittsburgh. The A's in 1990 lost the World Series. The Astros in 2018 lost in the ALCS. And the 76 Reds won the World Series. So only one of those 4 actually went on and repeated. And that also shows how difficult baseball is to repeat. And in case you were wondering,
all sports, if your name's not Tom.
In case you were wondering, one of my favorite trivia questions, and I only know this because I was very young, my dad would always talk about it, is the 70 Baltimore Orioles. They had some
71.
pitching. And in 71, it is the last time, and probably the last time forever, that there will be 24 20-game winners on the same team. Mike Cuellar was a left-handed pitcher, age 34 at the time. He went 20-9. Pat Dobson, age 29, was a righty, 20-8. Jim Palmer, I've heard that name before, age 25. He was like the youthful pitcher of that group, 20-9. And Dave McNally was age 28. He went 21-5 for those Orioles. And that was back in the day where pitchers took pride in finishing the game and pitch counts weren't so important and they weren't making so much money that it was important. So anyway, I know you want to talk about the Mets and the Red Sox again. And, my heart bleeds for Boston. I do like the Boston Red Sox. I will admit it. It's kind of my little... I'm not a crazy fan, Chuck, but I do kind of cheer for them, especially when they're playing those Yankees, even though I lived in Manhattan for 18 years. But what do you think of this game? We have, Boston, clinging to that first wild card berth, which means they would host it. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and it was interesting discussion yesterday, as we had Stroman, who I think is probably a little bit greater than Taijuan Walker, and then today we have Sale, who is definitely greater than Erod. But and that I'm glad that we kind of conglomerated to stay away from that for the most part. Boston covers the run line. The total's right there at 9.63. Not a whole lot to like there. What I find just, as far as like just betting tidbits and where to look and how to analyze something, what's most interesting I find here is that as a Boston Red Sox, Chris Sale has 23 home starts against a team with a below 500 record like the Mets have. And this is just the third time that he's not been a $2 or more favorite. And the last time just happened to be the Mets. It was 3 seasons ago. But against the Mets that day, it was Jacob deGrom. And so are we being told by Vegas that Taijuan Walker is Jacob deGrom? Are we being told by Vegas that it's time to fade Chris Sale? Are we being told by Vegas that they're, as I might see it, they're as desperate for some Red Sox money as they can be tonight? I can't imagine why, in those non-games, he averages minus 304 line in the games that don't fit that criteria. So I don't know what Taijuan Walker we're going to see tonight, but, I would absolutely be Mets run line or bust. Not going to risk it with Chris Sale at all. I do like this game as far as getting the Mets on that run line. I mentioned yesterday that they're kind of decent against lefties. Didn't exactly show it against Erod, but the number. Let me see. I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure we get the most up to date spread on, because it's still going to be a little better than yesterday, oddly enough. And you're only going to lay about $1.20, $1.25 to get the Mets plus 1.5, and especially after we didn't cash on maybe recommending that yesterday with all those extra factors that you get late in games. And I trust the Mets bullpen at least a little bit more. The Red Sox bullpen isn't as bad as it was right after the All-Star break, but still a little bit less trustworthy. And I just expect some things to happen to make this 3-way AL East wildcard positioning to be a little more nuts as we approach October 1st. And so I would even look to, if you wanted to take something big, I'd take the Mets on the money line. That's the way I'd go in this game. But if you just want something that's a little more even keeled, Mets plus 1.5, minus 120, minus 125 is some really good value.
How about a combination bet? I like doing these a lot. I would do, off the top of my head, I'll do the math, like 65% on the run line with the Mets and 35% on the money line.
Absolutely.
And then you get the kind of the best of both worlds over the course of a season. We don't know what's going to happen tonight, but if you play those, sometimes we call them sprinkling the money line with an NFL dog, for example.
Right.
That might be an interesting way to play it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's nice if you have these, I talk about DraftKings a lot, FanDuel a lot, if you're, in a state like yours, or if you're traveling, things like that, and you have the ability to get on an app, you're going to be able to get things at DraftKings that you can't get everywhere. And, I mentioned this a lot on Twitter, back and forth with some of my clients and things, is, DraftKings is going to offer you a baseball team -1 and a baseball team +1. And I think DraftKings is pretty bold for doing that, because not a lot of books are going to. They're going to be like, we're paying this out or we're taking our money back. No one's pushing on this. But, it eliminates the forced have to, make 2 different bets on the run money line and run line. And you could just take the Mets +1 tonight if you think they're going to win. And if it does end up being a 4-3 game, then, you don't have to you don't win with the run line, but you don't lose one of your bets.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. And as I said earlier in the show, there, Philly pulled it out. Doesn't matter how much you win by, they won, and they're right there knocking on the door to make it a pretty interesting 3-game series next week in Atlanta. And tonight, Philly has Zach Wheeler, who, in my opinion, is their ace. Mm-hmm. Aaron Nola is quite good, but he's a lot better at home than he is on the road. He's a tale of 2 cities, basically. The stats are amazingly different from home versus away. But Zach Wheeler is already finding himself as about a 318, 320 favorite
Yeah.
in Philly. So, that's pretty interesting. The wind will be coming out of the south, which will help the ball carry. And I really like the Phillies not only to win this game and get some momentum because they haven't scored runs. And Harper has just been nothing short of the MVP for the National League, whether they make it or not. I can't imagine where Philly would be without Harper.
No.
They wouldn't be within 20 games. So this game, I like the team total. I'm getting Philly at 5.5. But the under VIG is minus 135. So the over is, at worst, you're going to get even money. And when you can get even money in a situation where you expect a team to easily score 5.5 runs against a pitcher who I believe Aiken is 2-10 with a horrific ERA and a bullpen, despite the last two games, that stinks. They're the worst in baseball. So I like that team total over 5.5. And I'm going to see how the game goes at the beginning. I like doing the live bets. So if we get 2 innings of scoreless action,
Yeah.
I'll be real tempted to nail the full game over as well.
Yeah, and a couple of things just to piggyback on that. Just things that I always try to make sure I'm constantly aware of. NL Park game, whether or not it's interleague or intra league, you're not going to get a higher number than 5.5 on a home team. That's going to pretty much be the ceiling, which is why you're usually going to get plus money on it. And as I've mentioned several times this season, it doesn't have to just be in Wrigley, but outside of Coors, you get a home team that's at a 6.5, you just plow the over because Vegas is screaming for money on the under, just like is happening with your play here. I mean, we've got the two teams have scored 7 total runs in the 2 previous games. And the Phillies are, I think if that's correct, I think, and they're projecting the Phillies to score 1 less than that tonight. So yeah, I mean, it's taking all those signs into play. It's over or pass. Absolutely.
Yep. I agree. Obviously. Is there a third game you wanted to talk about at all? San Francisco, San Diego, I believe. It's kind of an interesting pitching matchup.
Yeah, it is. Real fast, though, since Tony Mejia brought this up yesterday, who's our MVP? And you and I are both lockstep with Bryce Harper. I thought about it last night, and I was thinking, Tony said, oh, not if they don't make the playoffs. And then I thought to myself, right now I have both award winners in the National League coming from the Phillies. And if they don't make the playoffs, is that correct? And so I'm wondering if maybe I probably need to upgrade Corbin Burns a little bit because, maybe if the Phillies keep playing like this and they do choke out to the Braves, and how much of an indictment I was saying, like, who's your Cy Young winner, John?
Well, I gotta go with probably Bueller, but I mean it could be pretty close. I mean, Bueller I guess would be the likely choice, but I mean, why not Zach Wheeler?
So you take Bueller over Urias.
I would because if I remember right, Chuck, and you would know, I think Urias has been a benefactor of a big time run support. And isn't Bueller's Bueller's numbers better, like ERA, the FIP, those kind of stats?
Yeah. So I was baiting you there because.
I didn't take the bait.
If you're picking a Dodger, it's max or bust. I mean,
right. Yeah.
That's my opinion. And so I'm thinking because the voters can't, look how intense this guy is. He gets traded and he's pissed off that Clayton Kershaw got a hit and he didn't.
Yeah.
He's breaking pets in the dugout because he didn't get a hit. And so and I don't know if these are the kind of things that voters think. But we're all humans, and I think it is. And you can't, Jake Arrieta won an award for just a second half. And that's the thing is Max Scherzer was amazing in the first half. He just played for the Nationals.
Yep.
And so, I think that the top 3 vote getters, I'm hoping, will be Wheeler, Burns, and Scherzer. But I don't know. I came to the realization that could I really be voting for Harper and Wheeler as award winners? And so it was interesting that you brought that up because they do deserve it, but if they don't make the playoffs, it's interesting.
Yeah, at least recognition of it.
Yeah.
And of course, Harper has the benefit of recency. His second half after the All-Star break is clearly the best in the National League, if not all of baseball. I mean, he still has a chance to win the batting title, for goodness sake. And honestly, I hope he does. It's just been one heck of a run. And as we said before, when a guy gets hot, they get hot. But then there's Bryce Harper, and when he gets hot, I mean, he's literally looking at that ball, and it's the size of a softball or bigger, maybe a volleyball.
Yeah.
And nothing gets by him. And he hits everything hard. So that's the only part I think that could give him a chance.
Transitioning that looking like a beach ball stuff appears as the game you brought up, the Giants at the Padres, that Manny Machado, much to my VMI dismay last night, was seeing some beach balls coming out of Gausman's hand. So that didn't, that team total under didn't play out, nor did the Giants run line play on that game. But tonight now, we have the opposite of Gausman versus Musgrove, as you brought up.
We sure do.
Scott Kazmir, who has 2 starts in the last half of a decade, facing off against Vince Velasquez, as we discussed yesterday. The state of the Padres starting pitching is to the point where they pick up a guy that the Phillies release, who still have to start guys that jumped ahead of Vince Velasquez, like Ranger Suarez, starting tonight at home off of a game where, again, the Giants pulled off in the last at bat as the Padres jump out to several leads, and Lamonte Wade still brings them back as the Giants just never fade, like you brought up yesterday. And tonight again, you're seeing money come in on the Padres. And I'm not excited to back Kazmir, but the Giants can hit Velasquez. And if you're gonna give me, it's like what I complained about with the disrespect on the Rays. When will the Rays fall off? They won't. When will the Giants fall off? They won't. Gabe Kapler, no respect. Kevin Cash, no respect. There's a lot I could say about Gabe Kapler with the Phillies conversation right now. They fired the guy for a .500 record, and look what kind of manager he really is with a much worse team. So, I would definitely be taking myself some Giants on the full game, getting plus money here. It's as we speak. What are we looking at? All right, so you're gonna get plus 100, plus 105 maybe, and that's the only way to go in that last game. I can't imagine if you see it any differently. I think Velasquez is greater than Kazmir, but it's hard for the Padres not to be like, well, damn, Tatis got into the action, Machado got into the action twice, Tommy Pham hit one out of the park, and we still lost the game.
Giants are amazing this year.
Yeah.
They are absolutely amazing. Well, Chuck, we're running out of time here, but I hope everybody saw the alert running across the board there. Sports Memo, this is only for viewers of this show, and it applies only to us because they're so kind, and you get 7 days of us for just $39. That means 78 for both of us. And if you look at our records, especially our hot streaks on sportsmemo.com, I think you'll find this to be an incredible opportunity and bargain to test drive us. If you've never had a subscription with anybody or you've never had one with us, this is a test drive opportunity. You can see the quality of the research provided that underscores the strength of our bets, and that's what we like doing.
And what I would and what I would add to that is it's all access. It's not so that you're watching a baseball show.
All sports.
Baseball is where I have excelled the most, but we're still winning in most everything. And what makes a 7-day pass on a Wednesday afternoon so valuable is, and I can't speak 100% for John, although I think most of the percents I can speak for John. By next Wednesday, when your pass runs out, you'll have a whole lot of my Saturday, at least college football card, already up that you will have had access to, including this weekend. Some of my NFL plays are more on Thursdays, but not. I have 2 NFL plays up already, so you're going to get it. Just the value of it is immense because of how much the college and NFL markets move quickly. You have to get on quick,
especially the timing of today.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a great point. It's like getting 2 weeks for one.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get this week's college and NFL definitely, and a large amount of next week's college and NFL too. Yeah.
Yep. Well, Dr. Chuck, it's a pleasure as always. We're going to do another MLB show tomorrow, and maybe we'll sprinkle a little college football in that show too. We'll plan this all out. But for Dr. Chuck, myself,
and we can talk
everybody
about
that is listening to these shows, we appreciate you taking the time. And on behalf of Sports Memo, Wager Talk, and the Predictive Playbook shows, may all the wins be yours. Thanks for listening.